Hi, Colin. We're going to walk through your paper together. You can follow me by looking at the mouse right here. You should see it as a circle that's scrolling across your screen. I'm going to give you an idea of where I'm at. To get things started, research paper is not your title. Your title is going to be whatever you come up with that helps to summarize what it is that you've been working on. You also are not going to need this in the upper left-hand corner right here, but don't worry about that for right now because we'll be talking more about form and formatting on Monday when you guys come back from the weekend. Abstract. Good. Ultimately, the abstract is going to be its own page on the front of this, but you have the right idea right here. This research project will explore robotic ethics and how humans as a collective effort can bring it about. Good. Again, you're not going to need this right now. We're going to talk about abstracts when you get back on Monday, but you have the right idea. Now, this part right here where you go through and you begin to lay out the actual pieces of the essay, background, complicating issues, etc. When you're writing an academic paper, this is sort of a gray area. It is not necessary for you to label them like this, but it is also not wrong for you to label them in this format either, where you're actually telling me what section by section by section is. So just be aware. What you're doing here is not necessarily wrong. It's also not necessary. Get rid of that colon in this case. Robot technology is rapidly advancing. Therefore, it should not come as a surprise that robots, along with artificial intelligence, pose a serious concern. Ethical and moral boundaries are serious things to consider because if we neglect to decide what ethical boundaries to place them on, then robots will make the decision for us, and this might not be one that we like. I think this is an excellent introduction. I liked it when I read it the first time. With artificial intelligence, robots will be able to make decisions for themselves about anything ranging from personal to personals here. Get rid of one of these. Transportation to war. To government policy. Good. Does that mean that you're going to be talking to me about these different things? Are you going to be talking to me about personal transportation, war, and government policy? Or are you going to be talking with me up here about the question of ethics? Before diving in, it's probably helpful to define what exactly robot ethics is. Good. You should do that. Okay, we need to have a little bit more right here. Moral standards of human beings along with the abilities to which robots should be limited. That's fine, but can you provide me with a little bit more of this? How maybe does this relate to the 3 robot rules that Isaac Asimov came up with in his famous books, I, Robot? Not that you have to use those, but they just might be a fun aside that you could consider and can compare and contrast your own work too so that the reader was able to easily follow along. Oh, next line, iRobot, for example. So this issue that you ever hear humans can be put out of the picture, can they? This is one of the big things that's actually debated. There's a very famous Silicon Valley guru, I guess the best word for him at this point, a guy named Jared Lanier. And Lanier talks a lot about this stuff where what exactly is AI and how it'll work. Just because computers can think for themselves, does that mean that they don't need us? The line that Lanier always uses is, they still need somebody to push the on button. I think maybe that's something worth considering here. So now you're getting down to this question of ethics. How will they be ensured that robot technology is working for the benefit of society? What does that term mean and exactly what are ethics? So there are several different types of ethics that you need to consider here, I think. One is what we would call utilitarianism or utilitarian ethics, which is the idea of doing the greatest amount of good for the greatest number of people. This is an idea that you could look up with the philosopher John Stuart Mill. He popularized this going all the way back to the 1800s. The other side of that is what perhaps Plato put forth, what might be called virtue theory, which is the idea that we should do things because the thing itself is good, even if it doesn't necessarily benefit all people. There's other things that go into this, a Kantian ethics, which suggests a cognitive imperative that we should always do that thing which we want other people to do, or even a Nietzschean ethics, we should do that thing that we will do forever if given the option to choose a second time. Maybe this is an issue that we need to talk about, but if you're going to discuss ethics in this, what sort of ethics are we going to apply to robots and their relationship to humans? Yeah, I just think that if you were applying this, you could dive deeper into this issue. And then what you could say is, so if there are 3 or 4 or 5 different types of ethics that you could possibly consider, and which one of those could best be related to the question of robots, then when you come down here to solutions, you could say, okay, applying this type of ethics to the issue of robots would be interesting because then we can talk about X, Y, or Z, or applying this type of ethics because then we could do this. Okay, another person that you might want to look up with this is a guy named Alan Turing, Turing. Alan Turing invented what was called the Turing test, which was the question of threshold and when exactly artificial intelligence is reached. And if people don't know they're talking to a robot, is that a standard that we could call artificial intelligence? That's maybe something I'd ask you to consider when going down through this. Look at some of his work. That actually might fit best here into this question of a complicating issue. Good. This is actually a wonderful example of this question. How does the driverless car know which way to turn? And this actually then becomes a question of ethics as well, especially utilitarian ethics. So there is the famous philosophical ethical problem of what's known as the trolley man. And if you look this up, that's an interesting question. If you were standing beside a train and you noticed that the train was careening, or the trolley was careening out of control, and you had a choice, you could pull the lever for the trolley and the trolley would change tracks and it would kill just one person. Or you could not pull the lever and the trolley would continue down the line that it's on, but then it would kill 5 people. Would you pull the lever? That actually becomes a really interesting question in light of the prompt that you're giving us here. Because what would the car choose to do? What should the car be programmed to do? Should the car make an active choice to kill the fewest number of people? Or by making that choice, is the car manufacturer then responsible for the one person that is killed? And then coming down here to review, and then your works cited good. Just remember, your works cited is going to be its own page, so you're going to put a page break right here above this. Okay, Colin, I think you've done a lot of good stuff right here. I like the direction that you're going with this paper. If you're going to, as you read back over this, what you should find is that it's mostly me telling you ways that you can go deeper or that you can press this paper to use the language from yesterday. So if you would please take some of my advice to heart. Your writing is good. Your organization is fine. Let's just find a way to explore some of these issues more deeply.